Speak up. How does this make you feel? Do you recognize it? Confrontational? Do you sometimes ignore a colleague during a meeting? And what do you think when your colleague leaves early? And how do you feel when you're the one leaving early? And maybe you think, little voice, inner voice, this is not going to be the soft stuff because I have some serious issues to tackle. War for talent, burnout, innovation. Those are topics we should be talking about. And I agree. Those topics I will be talking about. That and their link with inclusion. Because don't be mistaken, there is indeed a link. This slide is the golden thread of today, and it will become clear while we're going. And the blue in the circles is the information we have access to depending from our team composition. And I have three key messages. One, we should not focus on diversity, but on inclusion. Two, this is relevant for everybody. And three, it's crucial to innovate. And I know, upon hearing the words diversity and inclusion, you might be thinking, this is just going to be another woman talking about those women. Exactly not. As long as we focus there, we're missing the mark. I will be talking to you about the secret of high-performance teams, and it will become clear why it can be so challenging to innovate. But first, yes, I do take you back to your inner voice, because do you sometimes ignore it? And when do you do that? And why do you do that? Because ignoring it signals something. It signals that it's not safe enough to use it, and that is a problem. We work in a culture of conforming and walking in line. And everybody who stands out, we give a label, like we walk around putting sticky notes on people. At a certain point in my career, a headhunter contacts me and she says, I have the perfect job for you. So I go for an interview. I enter the room and I see my resume laying on the desk. But there's something on top of it. A big, fat 30 with a circle around it. 30, bam. I'm only 27 yet at the time. I start to feel very, very uncomfortable. No way that I want to work here. No word has been spoken, and so much has been said. The whole conversation, and I do mean the whole conversation, is about my age. I'm perfect for the job, they say, but the fact that I'm 2-3 years older is unsurmountable. That I hold 2 master degrees, acquired while working full-time, maturity and experience, irrelevant. We focus on one superficial detail and become blind by the rest. Let alone that we can imagine that being different might even add value. And I know, most of you are thinking, I would never do something like that. I hope so. Very few will take a marker and write it. But do you think it? Do you write it in your thoughts? Because we all know stories like these. Plenty of stories even. That's why we recognize the video I started with. We recruit based on a check the box. And who fits that box? Those who are alike. We're guided by biases. 99.9% of people has them. That means, so do we. It's in everything we do. The question is not whether we have them. The question is how deep are they and how are they guiding our decisions? This slide contains 186 biases. No stress, I'm not discussing those. Who is more competent, the pretty woman or the less pretty one? And when we encounter a nice guy, we assume he must be competent. And often, we prefer people from the same university or school where we went. They must be the best. We prefer people who are alike. And that's nobody's fault. We do that unconscious. But we're also not aware of its impact. And that is a problem. Because we think to be objective, but actually we're guided by biases that we afterwards rationalize with a superficial excuse. And in doing so, we exclude others, those who are different. For them, we have other criteria. For them, we have the bias of the higher bar. We just put the bar a bit higher. And I might present it with a funny cartoon. Don't be mistaken. All this is backed up by research. There is still an enormous normality in being homogeneous. And every time when I encounter such things, I feel genuine surprise. Are we not aware of the problems that arise out of homogeneity? Homogeneous teams are homogeneous because they exist of people who are alike. Same knowledge, same background, same perspectives. I always consider it particular. We all want out-of-the-box solutions with a check-the-box team. And how exactly is that supposed to work? It doesn't. We all encounter quotes like the one on the slide. I will know what it's really all about. And maybe you're thinking, where is that party? A lot of misunderstandings arise because we're not quite sure what it's really all about, let alone, why should we care? When we talk about diversity, we always talk about gender, those women, ethnicity, and quota, socioeconomic diversity. We limit it there too. More important is deep diversity, different knowledge, different background, different perspective. What makes you unique? Because soon it's about all of us. But diversity doesn't change a thing. Diversity doesn't solve a thing. Imagine you have a diverse and you put him in a homogeneous group. What will happen? Nothing. Not much. Research indicates we need at least 30% of a diverse to weigh on a homogeneous group, to have impact, to feel heard. Ladies, although there are also men that will recognize this. You say something in a group, it doesn't get picked up. A man repeats the same, it does get picked up. That's what's going on here. That's the 30%. Diversity in itself doesn't change a thing. Inclusion, what is that? Inclusion means that those who are different, those differences are part of it. They're seen, they're heard, they're valued. Not despite those differences, but thanks to those differences. The richness, the value is to be found in the differences. And at its core, inclusion is about how we feel in a group. When we start to work on inclusion, we go through 4 stages. And the outcome of the 4th and final stage is belonging. And belonging is what we need to feel good and to innovate. And the black arrow in the middle is a tipping point. Despite those differences, thanks to those differences. The richness is to be found in the differences. Inclusion drives diversity, not the other way around. Diversity focuses on the differences. Men, women, we, they. Inclusion glues and brings together. Diversity polarizes. It focuses on the differences, while inclusion, how we treat those differences and how we feel in a group. And this brings us to the relevance of inclusion also for homogeneous groups. Because as human beings, every human being, we have a very, very fundamental need to be accepted for who we are, to be part of things. And that is crucial for our well-being. Exactly the well-being that is so much to do about lately. And that acceptance for who we are, we do in only 2 ways. Belonging and fitting in. Belonging is a need we feel. But if we cannot have that, we will adjust. We will conform. We will make ourselves smaller. Imagine you go to a shoe store and there are only men's shoes size 7. I'm very aware on the slide those are not men's shoes and those are not size 7. But she was way too cute not to share. So back to our men's shoes size 7. Maybe you can try them on. Maybe you can even walk in them. But comfortable, they will never be for most of us. For most men, it's not the right size. That's what fitting in does to us. Something isn't right. Something feels off. It might even be painful. Fitting in is a reason we don't speak up. We don't use our inner voice when we hear it. it is not safe to do so. Fitting in has several consequences, and not all of them are innocent. One, ego tripping, something we never see in our professional world, right? Well, next time somebody tries to impress you with their elbows, remember this. Two, homogeneous groups, it's not safe to stand out. Three, and now I'm getting serious. Only 17% of people feel engaged at work. 17%. That means 83% is not. People don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, they lose engagement. And this brings us to the latest buzzword, quiet quitting. Quiet quitting, are you also up to date? A new word for an old pain. 4, I keep going. Burnouts and bore-outs. We all know somebody who had one. And maybe you already struggled with one yourself. That 17%, those burnouts, those bore-outs, know somebody who had one. And maybe you already struggled with one yourself. That 17%, those burnouts, those bore-outs, that is not a gender issue. That is not an ethnic issue. That's a human issue. That's a human issue that arises from a system that's no longer adjusted to its people. That arises from two basic needs, belonging and meaning. And there's just as much that I could be saying about meaning today, but that would take me too far. So today, I limit myself to belonging. People drop like flies. And then we love to say, whew, it's a tough cookie, it's not for everyone. And all that might be true. But nothing, really nothing of what I'm saying today has anything to do with any profession. It has everything to do with culture. We must dare to make that distinction. In the absence of belonging, there is always suffering. As some of you might be thinking, if people feel that bad, they should not nag about it. They should just go and do something else. And I agree, 100%. Welcome, war for talent. I promise you, I would make the link between inclusion and innovation. Innovation is doing different things and doing things differently. What do we need for that? Diversity of perspectives and psychological safety. Both are crucial. How else are we going to come up with those new ideas, new perspectives, new knowledge? What is the problem if we're going to innovate with a homogeneous team? Homogeneous teams are homogeneous because we recruit for them, yes, but it's not safe to stand out. So homogeneous teams lack diversity and psychological safety. Ouch. This is the pain point why it's so challenging to innovate. This is like baking a banana bread without a banana in the house. It's not working. You all know the quote, great minds think alike. And silently, or less silently, we all want to be that great mind. The great mind that comes up with the next fancy bling thing. Because if we do that, we get appraised. Who tells this team, great job, well done, if they come up with a deviant idea, and maybe just a plain bad one? We work in a culture of blame, fear, judgment. All characteristics of psychological unsafety. Psychological safety is the opposite. Every idea, every perspective, every opinion will surface without any negative consequence. No fear, no blame, no judgment. This slide contains the 4 stages of psychological safety. In the left-hand corner, we have homogeneous teams. In the right-hand corner, we have the threshold needed to innovate. Close the gap. Close the gap. This gap is a reason why innovation doesn't stick, where we're scratching the surface and nothing seems to change. All this just to say, innovating with a homogeneous team, that's not gonna work. What if we add diversity to the mix? Then we get this. We have diversity, but we still lack psychological safety, so those differences cannot flourish. This is the reason that some will say, diversity, that's not working. And that's true. Diversity in itself doesn't change a thing. What do we need? Inclusion. Inclusion is where the magic happens, where diversity of perspectives come together in a psychological safe environment. People feel seen, they feel heard, they become creative. And the outcome of inclusion is belonging. And belonging is what we need to feel good and to innovate. It's where we feel that fresh breeze under our wings. And it has other advantages. Less burnout, higher engagement, and better performance. And when our people perform better, our organizations perform better. Every day, each one of us helps to shape the culture of our firm and our profession. How we behave, the words we use, by what we value. What is success? What is failure? Every day, we have an enormous opportunity to do better. When I talk about inclusion and innovation, those are huge topics. And there's a lot we can do, big things, small things, organizational level, individual level. I'm going to give you 3 things, small tweaks, big leaps. We love that, right? 1, with who do you work and how do you divide work? Most of the time, we always go fish in the same pond. Turn it around, determining advanced criteria for the competencies for the job needed. Make it a sport to ask questions like, whose perspective are we missing? Who else can shed a light on this? To be future-proof, we need every opinion and every perspective to flourish. 2, redefine success. What does success look like for me and for my organization? And I do hope both are aligned. If not, we need to hold another conversation. Those 2 things alone can hugely impact the composition of your team. And last but not least, speak up. When we change the dialogue, we can change our world. Thank you.